The city at night still hummed with the distant sirens of ambulances, a lonely sound in the urban symphony. In the cramped room, where the air was thick with the smell of mold and poverty, 22-year-old Lin Momo carefully counted the stack of coins on the rickety table. The young girl's delicate face was etched with fatigue, as if the burdens of life had long since carved their indelible marks upon it. The clothes on her body, though clean, had faded with age. A soft sigh escaped Momo's chest as she gathered the small amount of money into an old envelope. It was a faint hope for her father's upcoming prescription and her mother's anxious wait. The phone in her hand suddenly vibrated, breaking the stifling silence. Kai, her boyfriend. A moment of hesitation crossed Momo's eyes before she pressed the answer button. Hello. Her voice was as light as a breath. On the other end of the line, Kai's voice rang out, somewhat impatient and painfully familiar. Momo, you got your salary, right? I need about 200 yuan. My friends and I have something to do and need to go out. The forced smile on Momo's lips suddenly disappeared. Kai, this money. I need to buy medicine for Dad. Mom is waiting for me. A soft tisk sounded from the phone, carrying Kai's undisguised annoyance. That old man is always sick. Can't we deal with it later? I promised I'd pay you back. This is important, it's about my relationships. It sounded as if those frivolous relationships were more important than her father's life. But Momo tried to explain, her voice breaking. Don't be like that, Momo, Kai interrupted, his tone turning pleading. You know how miserable I am. Always stuck with no money. Just this one more time. Momo's eyes were glued to the envelope containing the money, her heart feeling as if someone were squeezing it. The conflict was evident on her face, which was already tinged with worry. In a completely different world, where melodious jazz music mixed with the clinking of glasses and warm yellow light bathed luxurious furniture, 28-year-old Lu Yenza sat opposite his mother, Madame Lu, a woman in her 50s with noble and elegant beauty. Yenza's handsome, elegant appearance and the cold, authoritative aura emanating from him seemed to create an invisible wall separating him from his surroundings. Yenza, Madame Lu said, her voice soft but not lacking in determination, the Tran family's daughter is truly outstanding. Well-bred, educated, and a good match for our family. You should meet her once. Lu Yenza kept his eyes on the tablet, his slender fingers lightly gliding across the screen. Mom, I'm very busy. I don't have time for these arranged blind dates. Besides, I don't like that typical rich young lady. Busy? Madame Lu raised her eyebrows, her voice slightly displeased. You're always busy. What about your life? Your family? I want to have grandchildren to hold, Yenza. Hearing the mention of grandchildren, Lu Yenza's shoulders trembled almost imperceptibly. A trace of complex, elusive emotion flashed across his icy face, then disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. I told you, his voice was flat, without any emotion, it's almost impossible. Madame Lu sighed, her eyes filled with sadness. That childhood illness. Even doctors can be wrong. Miracles always exist. Don't close your heart like that. Just meet Miss Tran once. For your mother's sake. Lu Yenza stood up and straightened his expensive, wrinkle-free suit. I have something early tomorrow morning. Tell her I won't be coming. He turned and left, an assistant Chen, who was standing nearby, bowed as he passed. Yenza. Don't be so stubborn. Madame Lu called out after him, but his figure had already disappeared behind the rosewood door, leaving Madame Lu with a sigh and wordless disappointment. The luxurious space seemed to become even emptier after his departure. Back with Lin Momo, the only light in her room came from the yellow street lamp outside the window. The call with Kai had just ended, but its echo still lingered, like a dark cloud covering Momo's mind. She sat silently on the wooden chair, her shoulders slumped. The small amount of money in the envelope now seemed to weigh many times more, not only because of its material value but also because of the burden of choice. Choose her father, or choose to keep a fragile peace with Kai? An unanswered question kept gnawing at her heart. The phone rang again, this time a hauntingly familiar number, her foster mother, Zhao Chuyan. Momo took a deep breath, trying to calm her abnormally fast heartbeat. Mom! As soon as she finished speaking, Zhao Chuyan's shrill voice rang out on the other end of the line, piercing Momo's eardrums like a hammer. Your dad's medical expenses are gone. Send me 5,000 yuan right now. Immediately. Lin Momo's voice trembled as she tried to maintain her last bit of calm. Mom, I just sent money last week. I will send what I can. But all she got in response was a cold beep beep. The call was harshly cut off. Lin Momo buried her face in her hands, a feeling of helplessness and humiliation overcoming her. Hot tears began to roll down, seeping through her fingers. At this moment, Kai walked in, an impatient look on his face. Still dealing with your respectable mother? He smirked, his tone full of sarcasm. So, did you get the money for me? Momo raised her head, her eyes red as she looked at Kai, fatigue evident on her delicate face. Kai, I really can't this time. Kai sneered, scanning the room with undisguised contempt. This is why we're stuck here, Momo. You have no ambition. Your family is always holding you back. He stepped closer, his voice low but full of contempt. Do you think I like living like this? Counting every penny? It's not ambition, Kai, Lin Momo choked out, it's responsibility. My father. Kai cut her off with a fake smile, his eyes flashing with calculation. Actually, speaking of opportunities, he said, his voice full of slyness, I have a way out for us. For me, at least, and you can benefit from it too. My boss, Director Wang, is having a small get-together tonight. He's a big shot. If I make a good impression, a promotion is almost within my grasp. Director Wang. Lin Momo felt a vague unease rising in her heart. She had heard Kai mention this man with a certain reservation before, but his tone today was completely different. I don't know. Come on, Kai urged, taking her hand, his voice unusually soft. It's a fancy place. You can wear that dress I like. Just be charming, laugh at his jokes. This is important for my career, Momo. And if I succeed, we'll change our lives. He pulled her closer, a calculating glint in his eyes that Momo, in her exhaustion and worry, didn't notice. Just be tactful with him. He seems to like people who know how to talk and create a good atmosphere. Kai deliberately used understatement to hide his dark intentions, knowing Momo would never agree if she knew the whole truth. Lin Momo still felt something was wrong, an uneasiness creeping into her mind. But looking at Kai's hopeful and urgent expression, along with the pressure of money weighing down on her, she hesitated. Perhaps it was just a normal social event to help Kai build connections. She reassured herself, although the feeling of unease did not disappear. I will try, she mumbled, not daring to look Kai straight in the eye. She had no idea that she was walking step by step into a carefully set trap. At the luxury bar, the atmosphere was stifling with dim lights, loud music, and thick cigarette smoke. Lin Momo felt out of place and uncomfortable in the slightly too tight dress Kai had chosen for her. She sat huddled next to Kai, facing Director Wang, a man in his 50s, with a sturdy build, looking at her with a scrutinizing gaze and a greasy smile that made Momo shiver involuntarily. Director Wang's hand accidentally, but repeatedly kept lightly touching Momo's arm as he spoke, causing her to discreetly pull her hand away several times. So, Director Wang began with a smile that Momo found disgusting, his voice thick and oily. Kai told me that Miss Lin here is very good at pleasing others, huh? Kai smiled nervously and somewhat flatteringly. She's a good girl, Director Wang. Very understanding. He nudged Momo's arm. Momo, would you get the director another drink? He's been very generous with us. A glass of wine was pushed towards her. Lin Momo hesitated, trying to force a smile. Director, my alcohol tolerance isn't very good. What are you talking about? Director Wang laughed loudly, his tone seeming generous but full of pressure. A beautiful girl like Miss Lin. One drink is nothing. Have a drink with me. Consider it for Kai's future. His eyes were filled with meaning as he looked at her. Without waiting for Momo to reply, he signaled to the waiter, and a new drink was quickly brought to her. In the moment Director Wang deliberately drew her attention with a lame joke, Momo did not notice Kai's subtle nod to the bartender, nor did she see Kai himself take advantage of her inattention to sneak something into her drink. Feeling the pressure from both Kai and Director Wang, and the faint hope that this could actually help Kai, Lin Momo closed her eyes and brought the glass to her lips, taking a sip, then another. Little did she know, this was the beginning of her most terrifying nightmare. Soon, the room began to spin, the sounds became chaotic, and a strange, hot sensation invaded her body. Kai, she called weakly, her voice starting to slur, I don't feel well. But Kai didn't seem to hear, or was deliberately ignoring her, he was smiling brightly at Director Wang. She's just a little shy, Director. She'll get used to it soon. Director Wang's lustful gaze was now unconcealed, shining with a beastly light. He placed a heavy arm around Momo's shoulder, pulling her closer. That's right. We'll take good care of you. How about? Let's find somewhere a little more private. Lin Momo's eyes widened as extreme panic began to take over. The drug's effects grew stronger. Through the hazy fog in her mind, she saw Kai giving Director Wang a thumbs up. Kai's betrayal was like a cold knife stabbing straight into Lin Momo's heart. Mom, save me. She desperately screamed in silence, but only her foster mother's cruel voice from a previous memory echoed back, Great. Use that money to treat your father's eyes. You should be the one thanking them. That cruel memory, instead of crushing her, ignited a fierce will to survive within her. Lin Momo used all her strength to push Director Wang away. Stop! She shouted, her voice hoarse with fear and resentment. She staggered back, Kai rushed forward and tried to grab her hand. Momo, what the hell are you doing? Don't ruin my chances. But Momo had already slapped his hand away, turned, and run out of the bar. The city lights outside blurred before her eyes, everything was spinning. She was completely disoriented, in extreme panic, tears streaming down her face as she bumped into passers-by on the street, desperately searching for a way out. The sound of tires screeching was right next to her ear. In her panic, she could no longer see clearly and staggered out into the middle of the busy street. A jet-black luxury car stopped abruptly in front of her, just centimeters away. The back door of the car swung open. Without a second thought, in utter desperation, Lin Momo rushed inside like a wounded animal seeking refuge. Please. Save me. Please, she sobbed, her voice broken, her body trembling uncontrollably. I'm so dizzy. Please help me. The man sitting in the back seat, Lu Yenza, was startled and visibly uncomfortable at the sudden intrusion. He coldly looked at the woman with disheveled hair, rumpled clothes, and a dazed face, who was curled up on the floor of the car, mumbling about how unwell she felt. Who let you in the car? A grumpy voice rang out, not from Lu Yenza, but from the middle-aged driver in the front. He turned around and looked at Momo with a hostile gaze. Get out of the car now. Lin Momo became even more frightened, she unconsciously grabbed onto Lu Yenza's clothes, as if clutching the last lifebuoy. Please, someone is chasing me. Only then did Lu Yenza pay closer attention to the girl's abnormally dilated pupils, flushed skin, and rapid, uneven breathing. He frowned, a cold judgment escaping his thin lips. you've been drugged. Lu Yenza looked deeply into her panicked eyes, clearly understanding the effects of the drugs people like Director Wang often used. He was silent for a few seconds, then a blunt, brutally realistic question came out, without any emotion in his voice, "Are you still clean?" Lin Momo, despite her mind being dizzy from the drugs, could only nod her head unconsciously. She didn't understand why he asked that, but her fear of being left behind was even greater. Lu Yenza made a decision in an instant. He leaned forward slightly, ordering the driver in a calm and steady voice, "Drive." The car slowly rolled away, leaving a bewildered Kai and an angry-faced Director Wang standing frozen on the roadside. In the car, the effects of the drug became more and more intense. Lin Momo felt like thousands of ants were crawling all over her body, an invisible fire was burning her from the inside. She began to lose control, involuntary moans escaped her. Her consciousness gradually became blurry. When the car stopped in front of a luxurious hotel, Lu Yenza almost had to pull Lin Momo out. She had gone completely limp, clinging to him instinctively. In the elevator to the room, Momo's body heat radiated onto Lu Yenza, her eyes looking at him in an unconsciously inviting manner, her lips parted, begging for release from the torment. As soon as they entered the room and the door closed, Lin Momo could no longer bear it. She was like a drowning person clutching a life preserver, taking the initiative to grab Lu Yenza, her lips finding his clumsily but full of desire. "It's so hot. Please, help me," she whispered, her voice broken, filled with uncontrollable desire due to the drug's effects. Lu Yenza, despite being famous for his coldness and extraordinary self-control, was also an ordinary man. Facing Lin Momo, who had completely lost her mind due to the drug, actively seducing him with all her innocence and instinct, and knowing that if he didn't help her release it, the drug could be dangerous for her, a fierce internal struggle took place within him. He tried to keep his distance, but Momo's unexpected instinctive strength and initiative, along with her pitifully fragile image while drugged, caused cracks to begin to appear in his icy wall. Finally, in a moment where reason and instinct fought, events unfolded naturally. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the windows of the luxurious room. Lin Momo woke up in a large, unfamiliar bed, her body aching and her head heavy. She was wearing a silk hotel bathrobe. The memories of last night were only terrifying fragments. She saw Lu Yenza, dressed in a neat suit, standing with his back to her, looking out the window. Where is this? What happened? She whispered, her voice filled with fear. Lu Yenza turned around, his expression still cold as usual. "You're safe. You were drugged. I brought you here." Momo flashed back to images, the bar, Director Wang, Kai's betrayal, then his car, and then a blur. A wave of shame and fear washed over her, and she stammered, We. Lu Yenza interrupted, an unreadable emotion flashing through his eyes. "Yes. But don't worry, I will compensate you." Lin Momo looked at Lu Yenza in shock, her mind blank at his answer. "So last night. What exactly happened last night?" A feeling of humiliation, confusion, and an inexplicable sorrow surged in her chest. Lu Yenza didn't pay attention to Momo's absent-minded expression. He took out his phone and performed a few quick actions. A few seconds later, he put the phone away, his voice flat, without any personal emotion. "A sum of money will be transferred to your account as compensation." He paused for a moment, his cold eyes sweeping across Momo's face. He suddenly glanced at a red bloodstain on the bedsheet. Momo was embarrassed and quickly pulled the white silk blanket to cover it. He turned around and continued, "Let's consider this an accident. We won't see each other again." Lin Momo, in her daze and pain, only vaguely heard what he said. Account? She didn't even have a significant bank account in her name. Any transactions, big or small, had to go through her foster mother, Zhao Chuyan's, account. But she didn't have the energy to explain or ask further. After speaking, Lu Yenza turned and strode towards the door, his demeanor still as arrogant and aloof as before. "Wait!" Lin Momo blurted out, struggling to get up. The pain from her body and the invisible pain in her heart made her voice tremble. "Your name. At least tell me your name." Lu Yenza stopped at the doorway but did not turn around. A moment of almost suffocating silence filled the room. Then he spoke, his voice as cold as ice, "It's better if you don't know." The door slammed shut, trapping Lin Momo in humiliation, hurt, and a mess of unanswered questions. Little did she know that Lu Yenza's assistant, after receiving his order, had quickly found a way to transfer money to Lin Momo. Through the little information about her family background that they could gather in a short period, that large sum of money had been transferred to Zhao Chuyan's account, who they assumed was the main financial manager for Momo or her family, especially for a young girl in such a situation. Momo had no idea of the exact amount, 50 million yuan. All she felt at that moment was humiliation and despair. The following days passed like a nightmare for Lin Momo. She returned home, pale and withdrawn. The fear of what had happened and the uncertain future left her with no capacity to think about anything else. But her body began to show unusual signs. Nausea came every morning, overwhelming her, and she could only rush to the cramped bathroom, vomiting until her stomach hurt. At first, she thought it was just because she was too stressed, or because she had not eaten properly after the shock. But then, when she looked at the calendar hanging on the wall, a terrible truth slowly formed in her mind, causing the blood in her veins to freeze. Trembling, she bought a pregnancy test. The result showed 2 bright red lines, brutally clear. "Pregnant?" Lin Momo whispered, her eyes glued to the test stick, unable to believe it. Her whole body trembled. How could I be pregnant? Absolute panic invaded Momo's mind. What should she do? Tell her family? They would never accept it and might even force her to have an abortion or use the child as blackmail. And Lu Yenza? He would think she was a liar, deliberately setting him up to extort money. "I can't let my mother know I'm pregnant," she thought, fear overwhelming her. "Otherwise, she'll beat me to death." While Lin Momo was struggling with fate and making the most important decision of her life, a tense and high-performance atmosphere prevailed at the headquarters of the Lu Corporation. Inside the luxurious and cold CEO's office, Lu Yenza was presiding over an important meeting. His eyes were sharp, his voice powerful, and every instruction he gave was clear and decisive, allowing no delay or error. In the middle of the meeting, his closest assistant, Chen, discreetly walked in, placed a small piece of paper on the table in front of Lu Yenza, and quickly left. Yenza glanced at the piece of paper, his sharp eyebrows slightly furrowing, an almost imperceptible expression but enough for the observant people in the meeting room to feel a sudden chill. The content on the note was brief but shocking. "A woman named Lin Momo has registered you as her emergency contact after fainting and being admitted to one of our branch hospitals. Preliminary test results show that she is pregnant." The meeting ended sooner than expected. Alone in the large office, Lu Yenza stared at the piece of paper in his hand. Infertility. The word echoed in his mind again, clearly, like a curse that had followed him all these years since the doctor's diagnosis. He clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. Lin Momo was pregnant. How could that be? Was she lying to set him up? Or was the doctor's diagnosis wrong all those years ago? If she was really pregnant, whose child would it be? The useless boyfriend she tried to run away from that night? The thought made Yenza feel disgusted. But then, the image of that girl's panicked face, her frightened eyes, and her extreme weakness in his car that night came back to him. Pregnant. How? He muttered to himself, his voice filled with doubt and something else he couldn't name. Even though his mind told him that this might be a trap, some part of him couldn't completely erase the pitiful image of her. After a moment of contemplation, Lu Yenza picked up the phone. "Chen," he ordered coldly, "investigate everything about Lin Momo. Everything. And arrange for her to do an internship at the Central Hospital. Department of Neurosurgery. I want her where I can observe her. He wanted to verify it himself, to find the answers to the questions swirling in his heart. A few days later, at Central Hospital, one of the top hospitals in the country, Lin Momo, with a slightly pale face but eyes shining with determination, officially began her internship. She was assigned to the neurosurgery department, a specialty known for being harsh and demanding, and run by the youngest director in the hospital's history, none other than Lu Yenza. Momo had no idea about this arrangement, she just thought it was a lucky opportunity after all her hard work. On the very first day, while carrying a towering stack of medical records and hurriedly moving through the crowded hallway, Lin Momo accidentally bumped into someone. All the records in her hands fell to the floor. "Oh. I'm so sorry," she stuttered and looked up to realize that the person she had bumped into was the department director everyone respected and often mentioned, the same man from that night. Thinking of this, she felt embarrassed and quickly lowered her head. Lu Yenza looked down at the girl who was frantically picking up the papers. His gaze stopped at her cheek, where there was a faint, almost insignificant tear mole. For some reason, that mole reminded him of Shinjiaming, the girl he had always believed had saved his life many years ago, who also had a similar mole. "Be careful where you're going," he said, his voice a fraction softer than usual, perhaps because of the fleeting image, but still maintaining its usual coldness. "And never be late. That is my only warning." Lin Momo's days as an intern in the Department of Neurosurgery passed in a suffocatingly tense atmosphere. She struggled with sudden bouts of morning sickness, trying to hide them from everyone, especially the department director who was known for being strict and perceptive. Lu Yenza always had high demands for work, and every word he said was an order. However, sometimes, amidst that strictness, Momo felt a sudden flash of concern from him, especially when she looked particularly tired or pale. "Are you okay?" he asked once, when he saw Momo standing against the wall, her face pale as if she were about to faint. "You don't look well." I'm fine, Director Lu," Lin Momo hurriedly replied, trying to stand up straight. "Just a little tired." The interactions, however small and tense, between Momo and Yenza did not escape the eyes of those around them. Shui Han, another intern in the same department, who had always been jealous of anyone who received even the slightest bit of attention from Director Lu, began to watch them with increasingly jealous eyes. Soon, whispers and gossip about Momo deliberately seducing Director Lu began to spread throughout the hospital. "Look at her," Shui Han whispered to the other interns, his voice filled with disdain. "Always looking for excuses to hang around Director Lu. I even saw her getting out of his car this morning. The passenger seat in the director's car is usually reserved only for Miss Shinjiaming." Lin Momo accidentally overheard those words, her heart sank. Shinjiaming. His fiancée. A vague sense of loss and inferiority crept into her mind. The vicious gossip was like invisible needles stabbing into Lin Momo's already wounded heart. She tried to push away the elegant and noble image of Shinjiaming that everyone praised, as well as the feeling of inferiority and disappointment that was silently invading her soul. Her work in the Department of Neurosurgery had already drained all her energy, and now there was the invisible pressure from her complicated relationship with Lu Yenza and the prying eyes around her. Late one evening, after a long day of stressful cases and weary steps in the hospital, Lin Momo trudged back to her small, simple private room in what she considered the Lin family home. She just wanted some quiet space to rest, to temporarily forget her fatigue. But as soon as she opened the rickety door, an unwelcome scene greeted her eyes, causing her whole body to stiffen. Zhao Qiuyan and Lin Xiaoyuan were sitting in the middle of the room, their faces unusually cheerful. Beside them, a figure that made Momo shiver with disgust, the fat, sinister Director Wang was looking at her with a greasy, meaningful smile. The already stifling atmosphere in the room became even denser, making it difficult to breathe. "Momo, you're back!" Zhao Qiuyan shouted loudly, her face fixed in a fake smile. "Come here quickly," Mom has something good to tell you. Director Wang here, she pointed at the man, has generously given our family 200,000 yuan as a dowry. Tomorrow you will go and register your marriage with him. Lin Momo's mind was spinning. Dowry? Marriage certificate? With this vile man? She stared at Director Wang, the horrible memories of the bar flooding back, clear as day. What marriage? She shouted, her voice filled with horror and indignation. Mom, I won't marry him. He was planning to do something awful to me. Director Wang chuckled, a disgusting sound that made Momo feel sick. It's just a little misunderstanding, my dear, he said, his voice as smooth as a snake. Your mother has already explained everything to me. Your father's surgery requires 200,000 yuan urgently. If you listen well and marry me, everything will be fine. Lin Xiaoyuan, who was sitting next to her, also grinned and added a sentence that rubbed salt into Momo's wounds. That's right, second sister. Dad is pretending to be even blinder to put on an act. If he didn't say that, how could he get money from you? Lin Momo was stunned. The cruelty and shamelessness of the people she once called family were beyond her imagination. Tears welled up. In extreme despair, with no other choice, she shouted, her voice hoarse, I won't marry him. I'm pregnant. The room suddenly fell silent. Zhao Qiuyan stared at Momo, then her surprise quickly turned into cold calculation. Pregnant? She gritted her teeth. Whose bastard are you carrying? Never mind. That child isn't important. We'll get rid of that damn thing. You still have to marry Director Wang. No. I don't agree. Lin Momo screamed, trying to resist as Zhao Qiuyan and Lin Xiaoyuan rushed to hold her down. She struggled desperately, but how could a weak pregnant girl's strength resist two people consumed by greed? They quickly restrained Momo, dragged her into a small, dark, windowless room, and locked the door, letting her bang on it and scream until her voice was hoarse. Momo collapsed on the cold floor, tears streaming down her face. She felt like she was trapped in a living hell, with no way out, no hope. The four cold walls of the familiar room had now become a prison for Lin Momo. The sound of the lock clicking outside was like the final hammer blow, crushing any hopes that had just been kindled in her. She pounded on the door until her hands were sore and screamed until her throat was hoarse, but the only response was the terrifying silence from outside, or worse, the echoing laughter and curses of Zhao Qiuyan and Lin Xiaoyuan. Hours passed in pitch darkness and utter despair. Momo was weak from hunger, fear, and most of all, from worry for the little life forming inside her. Her tears had dried up, leaving only broken, choked sobs. Her swollen eyes stared aimlessly around the room, the place where she had grown up, the place that held her childhood and teenage years, but had never truly been home. In her hunger, her hands trembled as she groped around, hoping to find something to fill her stomach. And then, like a fragile miracle in the midst of her misery, under the thin mattress, she found a piece of dry, stale bread, probably from some meal she had saved. Tears welled up again, but this time they were tears of humiliation and a desperate will to survive. She broke off small pieces of bread, swallowing with difficulty, her throat tight. My dears, she whispered, one hand clutching her stomach, I'm sorry. You have suffered with me. But I promise. I'll be strong for you. We have to survive this. That promise was like an invisible source of strength transmitted into her exhausted body. At that moment, the door to the room burst open. Zhao Qiuyan and Lin Xiaoyuan rushed in, their faces devoid of any humanity. In Lin Xiaoyuan's hand was a terrifying-looking wooden stick. Taking her to the hospital for an abortion is both expensive and time-consuming, Lin Xiaoyuan sneered, his vicious eyes staring at Momo's belly. How about I help you out once and for all? I'll personally abort that damn thing in your belly. He waved his stick, his expression full of ferocity. Don't. Don't come any closer. Lin Momo screamed in horror. She backed into the corner of the wall, trying to cover her still not so visible belly. In that moment of crisis, with unexpected quickness, Momo grabbed the cell phone she had hidden under her pillow. Her fingers trembled as she randomly dialed the only number that popped into her head, the number of Lu Yenza, that cold man, her last fragile hope. Hello. Hello. Help me, please help me. Her voice was panicked and broken. Someone wants to harm my child. Ah. Lin Xiaoyuan saw it. He rushed forward, snatched the phone from Momo's hand, and threw it hard on the floor, the screen shattering into pieces. At the same time, in Lu Yenza's office, Assistant Chen had just walked in with an urgent expression. General Manager, he reported, we just discovered a problem. The 50 million yuan you requested to transfer to Miss Lin Momo last time did not actually go into her account. He paused for a moment, observing Yenza's expression. The account that received the money belongs to her foster mother, Ms. Zhao Qiuyan. It seems that Miss Lin Momo never actually received most of that money. Lu Yenza frowned, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. Assistant Chen continued, his voice somewhat hesitant, and General Manager, we just received a very short call from Ms. Lin Momo's number. We only had time to hear a few panicked cries for help, saying that someone wanted to harm her child, then the signal was suddenly cut off. Silence fell over the room. Then suddenly, a terrible rage flared up in Lu Yenza's eyes, an emotion rarely seen in him. His face was cold as ice, but his eyes were burning with fire. Summon everyone. His voice was harsh, filled with undeniable authority and urgency. Go to Lin Momo's address immediately. Hurry. If anything happens to her and the child, all of you will be in trouble. As soon as Lu Yenza's furious command was given, an elite team of black-clothed bodyguards, always on standby and ready to act in the shadows, was immediately mobilized. The black luxury cars quickly sped through the night, tearing apart the city's silence, heading straight for the address of the old apartment complex where Lin Momo was desperately waiting for a miracle. Their speed was like a storm, because they knew that every second of delay could endanger the life of the person their CEO had just ordered them to protect at all costs. Meanwhile, in the Lin family's shabby apartment, the atmosphere was filled with cruelty and despair. Lin Momo, after her phone, her last hope, was smashed by Lin Xiaoyuan, could only cower and endure the impending blow. Xiaoyuan swung the wooden stick in his hand, preparing to strike her frail body. Stop! A shrill scream rang out from the door. It wasn't Lu Yenza, but a few curious neighbors who, unable to bear the brutal scene about to unfold, mustered the courage to peek through the door and cry out, though their voices trembled with fear. The sudden appearance of the neighbors made Zhao Qiuyan and Lin Xiaoyuan pause, but only for a moment. Zhao Qiuyan immediately regained her fierce expression and glared at the crowd. What are you looking at? This is my family's business, why are you meddling? This brat is disobedient, getting pregnant out of wedlock and ruining the family's reputation. What's wrong with me teaching her a lesson? Having said that, she ignored the increasingly loud whispers and discussions of the curious crowd gathered in the hallway, and turned to Lin Xiaoyuan to drag Lin Momo out. Their target was Director Wang's car parked downstairs. That fat man must be very impatient. Let me go. What you are doing is illegal. Lin Momo struggled desperately, but her strength was nothing compared to two people whose minds were clouded by greed and cruelty. Her body was dragged across the floor in pain and humiliation. The whispers and pitying or curious looks of the neighbors were like thousands of needles piercing her flesh. You still dare to talk about breaking the law, you rotten bitch. Zhao Qiuyan gritted her teeth, pulling and cursing as she did so. Bringing an illegitimate pregnancy back home and dishonoring the family, how can you still have the face to talk about right and wrong? Quickly and obediently go with Director Wang, at least you can earn some money to take care of yourself and pay off this family's debt. As she was dragged closer to the main door, seeing Director Wang's car looming in the distance and his silhouette standing against the car door with a triumphant smile, extreme fear invaded Lin Momo. With nothing left to lose, she mustered all her strength and screamed desperately, hoping that what she was about to say could save the situation. The child in my belly. The child in my belly is Lu Yenza's. It's the CEO of the Lu Group. If he knew you were treating me and his child like this, he wouldn't forgive you. Zhao Qiuyan and Lin Xiaoyuan paused for a moment in surprise, then burst out laughing as if they had just heard the most ridiculous story in the world. Are you crazy? Zhao Qiuyan said disdainfully, her voice full of sarcasm. Lu Yenza. The CEO of the famous Lu family, with billions in assets, the man who stands above everyone in the capital. Look at your status. A penniless, poor girl like you wants to climb high and seduce young Master Lu. You're not even worthy of carrying his shoes in your dreams, let alone carrying his child. Don't try to make up stories to get away. As soon as she finished speaking, she was about to continue dragging Momo away when, at that moment, a fleet of luxurious, jet-black cars with an overwhelming aura suddenly rushed over and stopped right in front of the apartment complex. The screeching sound of brakes cut through the chaos. The door of the leading car opened. A tall, majestic figure stepped out. His entire body exuded a cold, suffocating aura of authority. His face was handsome but cold as ice, his eyes sharp as knives and filled with murderous intent. It was none other than Lu Yenza. He saw Lin Momo being dragged roughly, her face pale, tear-stained, her eyes filled with despair. The rage within him flared up violently. He strode quickly towards them, each step carrying a thunderous weight. Who dares to touch Lu Yenza's woman? His low but powerful voice rang out, like a sledgehammer strike, causing everyone present from Zhao Qiuyan, Lin Xiaoyuan, and the waiting Director Wang, to the crowd of neighbors to be stunned and terrified. The air seemed to freeze in that moment. Lu Yenza's announcement was like a bolt from the blue, not only leaving Zhao Qiuyan, Lin Xiaoyuan, and Director Wang stunned, but also silencing the crowd of neighbors who were whispering in shock and somewhat fearful. The overwhelming aura from this man made it impossible for anyone to doubt the authenticity of his words. Immediately after Lu Yenza's powerful words, the black-clothed bodyguards following him took action. They moved quickly, professionally, and efficiently. Lin Xiaoyuan, who had just been swinging his stick to hit Lin Momo, was restrained by two large bodyguards before he could understand what was happening. His arms twisted behind his back, and the wooden stick fell to the floor with a clatter. The fat Director Wang, seeing that the situation was not good, tried to sneak away quietly towards his car but was quickly blocked by an impenetrable wall of men. His arrogant and lecherous expression was now filled with fear, and he tried to force a pathetic, flattering smile. Zhao Qiuyan, seeing her beloved son captured and her prey, Director Wang also unable to escape, turned pale. But her slippery and treacherous instincts were ingrained in her. She immediately changed her attitude, trying to feign pity. She let go of Lin Momo, intending to rush towards Lu Yenza. Young Master Lu. Young Master Lu. Zhao Qiuyan tried to squeeze out a few crocodile tears, her voice pitiful. You misunderstood. This slut, she got pregnant with someone's illegitimate child, and then tried to blame you to climb up the ladder. I was just teaching this spoiled daughter, who doesn't know how to maintain the family's reputation, a lesson. She's made us lose face, young Master Lu. Lu Yenza didn't even spare Zhao Qiuyan a glance. His gaze was still fixed on Lin Momo, who was trembling and clinging to the door frame. Her face was pale and bloodless, but a faint glimmer of hope flashed in her tear-filled eyes when she saw him appear. He completely ignored Zhao Qiuyan's false words and coldly asked one of the bodyguards holding her, she said Lin Momo is not worthy of me? Then, he turned to the crowd of neighbors who were silently watching, his voice not loud but each word clear, carrying an undeniable weight, the child she is carrying in her womb is of Lu family blood. From now on, if anyone dares to lay a finger on her, or my child, that person will pay a heavy price. His words were like an assertion of sovereignty, a stern warning. With that, Lu Yenza quickly walked over to Lin Momo. He took off his expensive suit vest and put it on her body, which was shivering from the cold and fear, covering her disheveled clothes and the faint bruises on her arms from being dragged. He gently supported her arm, his usually cold voice now holding a rare gentleness, although there was still a hint of tension. "It's okay. I'm here." Lin Momo looked up at him, tears still falling, but this time there was not only fear but also gratitude and something else she couldn't name. She let him lead her, step by step, out of the place where she had suffered so much pain. As he passed Zhao Chuyan and Lin Xiaoyuan, who were being held tightly by the bodyguards, Lu Yenza paused for a moment. He didn't look at them but coldly ordered Assistant Chen, who had appeared beside him at some point, for these two, immediately request a restraining order. Make sure they are never allowed to bother Lin Momo again. He paused, glanced at Momo's pale face, and then continued, his voice tinged with complexity, "For Momo's sake, I won't have them arrested right now. But have someone keep a close watch. Any dangerous actions, deal with them immediately." Assistant Chen bowed his head, "Yes, General Manager." Lu Yenza didn't say another word, carefully helping Lin Momo into his luxury car. The car door closed, separating her from the noisy, dirty, and malicious world outside. Inside the car, the quiet and the warmth from his vest enveloped her, making Momo gradually feel safer, even though her heart was still pounding from what she had just experienced. She still couldn't believe that this cold man, the person she thought she would never want to see again, had appeared and saved her like a god descending from the sky. Silence reigned in the car. Lin Momo was still trembling, but Lu Yenza's presence gave her a strange sense of security. He didn't ask much, just took her straight to a high-end private hospital owned by the Lu family. At the hospital, after being carefully examined and cared for by the doctors, shocking news was delivered to Lu Yenza. Lin Momo was not only pregnant, but she was pregnant with twins. The results of the urgent DNA test also confirmed with 99.99% accuracy that he was the father of the two children. Lu Yenza was stunned. Twins. And they were his. His long-standing belief in his infertility had completely collapsed. Although a trace of inherent doubt still lingered, when he saw Lin Momo lying weakly on the hospital bed, along with the undeniable test results, complex feelings, responsibility, protectiveness, and perhaps a glimmer of joy he didn't want to admit welled up in his heart. "You will move in with me," Lu Yenza said to Lin Momo, his voice still cold but no longer completely distant. "I will be responsible for you and the children." Lin Momo, although still shocked and scared, before his decisiveness and thinking of the two little lives in her belly, could only weakly nod. She was taken to Lu Yenza's luxurious villa, starting a completely new life under the care of Auntie Sun, the Lu family's housekeeper, a gentle and thoughtful woman. Lu Yenza, although busy, also began to show small but unexpected gestures of care, ensuring she ate well, occasionally taking her to the hospital for her internship, although he was still the cold department director there, and even once massaging her tired legs after a long day. The ice in this man's heart seemed to be slowly melting. However, the storm was not over yet. The return of Xinjiameng, the beautiful dancer, childhood friend, and the person Lu Yenza had always believed to be his savior complicated things. Xinjiameng quickly realized Lin Momo's special presence beside Lu Yenza. At the hospital, the gossip, especially from the jealous intern Shui Han, suggesting Momo was just a replacement because she had the same tear mole as Xinjiameng, made Lin Momo extremely miserable and self-conscious, further believing her relationship with Yenza was only temporary. One time, when Madame Lu, Yenza's mother, visited the villa, Lin Momo, out of guilt, lied, saying she was the new maid. But Lu Yenza appeared in time and confirmed that Momo was his wife, pregnant with his twins. Madame Lu, after a moment of surprise, was overjoyed, especially when she learned they were twins, and she gave Momo the Lu family's heirloom jade bracelet as a sign of approval. Meanwhile, Momo's foster family was in trouble. Lin Xiaoyuan was heavily in debt due to gambling. Zhao Qiuyan, at the instigation of Shui Han, who was secretly influenced by Xinjiang, learned that Momo was living a happy life in the Lu family and immediately tried to extort money. Lu Yanzi decided to settle things once and for all. He offered them a large sum of money, 1 million yuan, in exchange for them signing a document relinquishing all rights and responsibilities related to Momo. Zhao Qiuyan and Lin Xiaoyuan happily agreed, unaware that Lu Yanzi already knew the 50 million had previously ended up in her hands. As she left, Zhao Qiuyan muttered angrily that she would have Momo expelled from the Lu family, because the position of the Lu family's young mistress should belong to her Jiameng, a detail that hinted at their secret relationship. The Shen family, especially Madame Shen, still did not give up on the idea of matchmaking Lu Yanzi and Shen Jiameng, relying on the life-saving grace of the past and the verbal marriage agreement between the two families. But Lu Yanzi firmly refused, insisting that Lin Momo was his only wife, causing Shen Jiameng to be extremely resentful and desperate. At this time, Zhao Qiuyan went to Shen Jiameng and proposed a plan to harm Lin Momo. They lured Momo to an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs under the pretext of her foster father's birthday, and arranged for Dr. Sheng Yan, a kind senior at the hospital who had feelings for Momo, to also be there, drugged. The plan was to create a fake scene of Momo having an affair, so that Lu Yanzi would catch her red-handed and abandon her. Everything went according to their plan. Lin Momo was tricked into going to the warehouse and found Dr. Sheng Yan in an unconscious state. Shen Jiameng and Zhao Qiuyan appeared, preparing to record evidence. Momo cried out for help in desperation. However, Lu Yanzi had begun to doubt Shen Jiameng's life-saving benefactor story. Assistant Chen investigated and found that at the time Yanzi was kidnapped 10 years ago, Shen Jiameng was not in the capital. At this time, a signal emitted from the warehouse. It came from the tape recorder Yanzi had once given his life-saving benefactor. Shen Jiameng had later taken this recorder after Momo, who had found it and kept it, unaware it was Yanzi's keepsake for his benefactor, brought it to a repair shop. Lu Yanzi rushed to the warehouse, foiling Shen Jiameng and Zhao Qiuyan's plot. When Shen Jiameng desperately presented the tape recorder as final proof that she was the benefactor, a distant memory suddenly revived in Lin Momo's mind. She trembled as she realized that it was the tape recorder an injured boy had given her 10 years ago, after she had saved him. 10 years ago, I saved a boy, Momo whispered. Lu Yanzi was stunned. All the pieces of the puzzle fell perfectly into place. Lin Momo, with the familiar tear mole, was the little girl who had saved him that year. All doubts about the child and about his feelings for her disappeared. He had found the true benefactor of his life. Just as the truth was revealed, Madame Shen, Momo's biological mother, whose child Zhao Qiuyan had swapped, also arrived, alerted by Madame Lu's anxious news and her own feeling that something was wrong. Seeing Momo, she was stunned by the uncanny resemblance. Zhao Qiuyan, seeing her biological daughter Shen Jiameng exposed, panicked and confessed the whole shocking truth. 22 years ago, she had swapped Shen Jiameng, her biological child, with Lin Momo, Madame Shen's biological child, so that her own child could have a rich life. The shock was so great that Lin Momo went into labor on the spot. In the hospital waiting room, the atmosphere was extremely tense. Lu Yanzi, Madame Lu, and Mr. and Madame Shen, who had now accepted Momo as their biological daughter, waited anxiously together. Finally, the nurse came out to announce the good news. Lin Momo had safely given birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl, both very healthy. Joy was overwhelming. Many years later, their life was filled with happiness. Lu Yanzi became an exemplary father and husband, often playing with his two adorable twins, daughter Imuo and son Mios. Lin Momo, now a capable, confident, and respected doctor, still maintained her gentleness and kindness. The Lucian family often got together, their homes filled with children's laughter. In contrast, Shen Jiameng, having lost everything, worked hard in a cheap restaurant, living in loneliness and regret. Lin Xiaoyuan also had to do hard manual labor, finally understanding the value of money. One cozy evening a few years later, when Imuo and Muse were about 5 years old, Lu Yenza found the old tape recorder. He and Momo looked at the memento together, recalling their tumultuous yet magical journey from the fateful encounter on the night she was drugged, through misunderstandings and betrayals, until finding each other again and realizing their paths were destined to cross a decade prior. True love helped them overcome everything, find happiness, and build a complete family.